The Clothing Bank was established in 2010 with a vision to inspire, skill, and support unemployed South Africans to eradicate poverty in their lives. We understand that breaking the cycle of poverty requires a multi-dimensional approach to creating an environment that stimulates personal and professional growth. That's why we work with the heart, head, and hands. Through unique collaborations, we build power partnerships that catalyze change. Our key partners include South Africa's major retailers who donate their excess merchandise to our 2-year enterprise development training program. The donated merchandise is debranded and redistributed to our beneficiaries, unemployed mothers who generate a decent income by learning how to trade in the informal sector. The Clothing Bank actively supports the circular economy. We help our retail partners responsibly redistribute their excess merchandise while supporting a financially inclusive society. During year 1 of their 2-year journey, our beneficiaries are trained in business, finance, life, and computer skills. Training includes digital marketing and guidance on how to build her customer base. During year 2, we expose our beneficiaries to a more structured training program in partnership with TBISA. The Informal Small Business Practice ISBP program is an accredited NQF Level 3 and deepens their business knowledge. It even includes a module on developing a business plan. Very early in our journey, we realized that women stuck in the trauma of poverty need additional support. We expanded our program to include life coaching and business mentoring, helping people understand what holds them back together with a program that stimulates I can moments, shifts people into responsiveness. Responsibility is the root of success, and commitment, determination, and attendance are expected and encouraged. The program is designed to build self-esteem and impart real skills that sustain their small businesses and positively impact their future. We need to ensure that our program is in fact changing lives, and we partner with the Green Light Office to measure our impact by using the Poverty Stoplight tool. The Clothing Bank is having a positive impact on the lives of the women we recruit, their children and families. The ripple effect is inspiring. We are seeing our beneficiaries emerge as role models within their communities, leading the way for others.
Thank you, Ilmin. I've got my camera on very briefly, and then I think I'm going to pop it off while I do the PowerPoint presentation. It's a brief presentation, only 7 slides. First of all, a big thank you to Ilmin and TVET for this wonderful opportunity to be on this call with so many interesting and inspiring individuals. I do just want to do a disclaimer. I think, as with many of us who are largely working from home now due to COVID, my office companions have changed to that of the family dog. And as much as I've asked them not to bark for the next half an hour, I'm not sure if they fully understand that request, but we can only hope that they do. Ilmin, could we go to the first slide of the PowerPoint, please? Fabulous, thank you. So I want to, before jumping in, just very briefly look at the title that I was given to have a chat on today, a conversation about, and that was, what do I need to become a self-employed business owner? I want to just look at 2 words. The first one is self-employed, and I was delighted to see that the word self-employed was used. It's a word that we as an organization at TCB tend to use, and we tend to prefer it to the word entrepreneur. We are of the opinion that entrepreneurship is in a continuum, And the type of beneficiary that we work with is entry level on that entrepreneurial journey. Many of them arrive with us as not having any background in trading themselves, or they are merely survivalist entrepreneurs, you know, selling yogurts from home, making cook sisters, whatever it is. But it is definitely a continuum, and I think sometimes we perhaps use the word entrepreneur too loosely. Of our women, a large percentage of them will never make that jump into what we tend to traditionally understand as what it means to be an entrepreneur. That doesn't mean that none of them do, but it is a relatively small percentage. And we do have women who have formed cooperatives, and that was a very, very interesting conversation to be a part of. And we do have women who grow their business to an extent where they can apply for government tenders, etc. But the bulk of our clientele, our beneficiaries, become solid, self-employed individuals who have managed to journey out of poverty. Then the second word I want to look at there is the word need, and that is just because I'm going to be discussing two aspects of the word. What do I need to be an entrepreneur? The one is, what are the characteristics that in our 12 years of being in existence as an organization, we're seeing as characteristics of individuals who will be successful in this space? And then the second aspect of need is, what kind of support do self-employed people need? Do entrepreneurs need? Do people who are involved with co-ops need? Because it was very interesting to hear some of the comments made by people that are operating in the co-op space. Thanks, Owen. So I think this slide, South Africa's concerning reality, we can move on from quite quickly, because I think the excitement and joy of being on a call like this is everyone on this call is passionate about addressing and playing a role, no matter how small it is, in solving many of the realities and the deep concerns that we have as a country economically. Thanks, Owen. So what are we learning is holding us back as an economy, as a country, from growing the self-employed stroke entrepreneur basis? Why are more people not jumping into the space? You know, when government talks about raising up entrepreneurs, on addressing that as an issue or as a way to economic relief, very often the take-up to that is not what one would have hoped or wished. And these are just a couple of indicators that we have journeyed and discovered make that potentially hard. The first is that South Africa traditionally, as an economy, has a relatively low entrepreneurial spirit. We don't really have a very strong history of people being entrepreneurs. We've largely been in a society where we have preferred to look for jobs. We are, as an organization, delighted to say that we are starting to see that shift, which I think is incredibly exciting. But certainly 12 years ago when we started, self-employment wasn't aspirational. It wasn't something that you aspired to. It was something that you did only if you couldn't get a job, whereas we're now seeing a shift in that. People are choosing to be self-employed. That also ties into the second point, and that is that because we don't have a history of entrepreneurs, our individuals as South Africans, I can put myself into that place as well, we had limited role models. We didn't know what it meant to be self-employed. We didn't know what it meant to be an entrepreneur, what that journey was going to involve. And as a result of that, it leads to the next point of limited knowledge and know-how. How do I do it? How do I begin this journey? Because we'll all know that being self-employed and being an entrepreneur is a very, very hard journey. It's not easy. We don't know how to do it. Poor financial literacy, high debt and low savings culture. We know in South Africa we have a devastatingly history of debt and high debt and unpaid debt. And we also do not have a savings culture. That obviously has an impact on whether you can become and even start the journey of being self-employed or getting to that end goal of entrepreneurial size. Low self-belief and a high level of trauma. It is something that we see all the time in the beneficiaries that we work with. And I'm not only there referencing trauma as in I have been a direct recipient of trauma, I'm talking about generational trauma, which is something I think we don't speak enough about in South Africa and that we don't acknowledge enough as a country. And linked into that is the low self-belief. I don't believe I can do this because I've never seen someone else do it. Or I don't believe I can do it because I just don't believe in myself. We also obviously have the poverty and the trauma of poverty. Living year after year after year in a poverty space is deeply traumatic. And we see that trauma in our beneficiaries. We've also, unfortunately, created somewhat of a dependency mindset in South Africa, and we see it entrenched. The belief that I can't do it, so someone else needs to do it for me. Whether it be a brother who has a job needs to give me money, whether it needs to be government that should be giving me money, whether it be my mother who gave birth to me, I feel should be financially responsible for me. There is that I can't, I'm not able, and unfortunately some of our practices in South Africa continue to feed that feedback loop of I'm not able, someone else needs to do it for me. This leads into the belief, and I've referenced that I believe I can't. And something that we talk about a lot organizationally is external locus of control. Locus of control is the belief whether you are responsible for doing something or someone else is. And I will talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. Thanks, Elmin. So, what are we looking for, and what has our last 12 years of experience shown us is the characteristics that will lead to success in our organization. And by success, I mean someone who is running a sustainable, self-employed business. They potentially employ 1 or 2 people. They have enough resources that when something like COVID hits, they do not go back and they do not regress into a state of poverty. And just on that, we were so happy to see that as a result of COVID, the majority of our beneficiaries did not regress into a state of where they were not able to make financial choices, where they were no longer financially independent. So we have a very rigorous onboarding process. And the reason we do that is because we believe that not everyone is necessarily ready or perhaps even able to begin this journey. Having an opportunity, we have learned, is not enough. An opportunity is a starting point, and without an opportunity, you're not going to migrate further on the journey into self-employment. But the opportunity itself is not enough. We need to look to be working, and we look with people who are ready and are willing to lean into that opportunity. We always say that we can work with beneficiaries who have a spark and we can help them fan that spark, but we are not able to ignite that spark, to start that spark. That spark has to be inherently there. We are also learning, we love data. We collect a lot of data as an organization, and we have over the years realized that for us as an organization, success on the self-employment continuum is with a more mature beneficiary. So the average age of the individual who starts and is then successful and graduates on our 2-year program is actually 38. And that means that by the time they graduate, they are already 40 years old. And I know that that often works contrary to a lot of policy and a lot of access to funding policy in particular. But that is what we are learning success looks like in our organization. We're also discovering that support is really important. Now, I'm not talking about the support of mentorship or etc. I'll get to that later. We're talking about the support on an individual level. Does my family believe in what I'm doing? Or are they keep on pushing me to get a job because it will give me quicker gratification, quicker access to finances? Are they prepared to sacrifice in the short term to gain the long-term benefits of being self-employed? The other thing that we are seeing is a key indicator of success is what is my belief and dream for my children? And that we believe links to what is my reason for getting out of bed in the morning? And if you have dreams for your children and you have ambitions and hopes for your children, that is going to be a strong impetus and a strong reason to get up in the morning and to start your day. Role models, we've referred to that. Individuals that have some level of entrepreneurial activity in their family definitely do have a greater chance of success. And then the locus of control, which I've referred to already, do I believe that others are responsible for my journey, or am I at a point where I am now prepared to make that shift and begin my journey and do what is required to move forward on this journey? Thanks, Almin. So as an organization, we have adopted a philosophy called the A to B philosophy or methodology. And I do need to pause at this moment to explain very briefly what it is about, because it does underpin everything that we do as an organization. So right in the early days, we came upon this philosophy, which I would be happy to share some of the findings, some of the writings with Ilmin if people do desire that. And the premise, and very briefly, of the A to B methodology is that when, as humans, we are operating in a place of anxiety, we have the belief of, I can't do this, I'm not okay, I'm not safe, and therefore, as a result, I won't succeed. So how do we get people from a place of anxiety, which is continually fed by the primitive brain, to a place of sort of higher level thinking, where the belief is, I can do this, I am okay, I'm worthy of this opportunity, and I am safe. And as a result of that new belief, I have the volition, the energy to do what it takes to become self-employed and to journey along that continuum. We use a word a lot in our organization, and that is the word response-able. It's obviously a play on the word responsible, but it is, I am responsible and I am able. We cannot do the journey for our beneficiaries. We can journey alongside them, we can support them, but it is their journey that they have to embark on with their volition and their belief that they can do this. They are okay, they are in control, and they deserve this opportunity. Thanks, Omen. Right, this slide shows you the approach that we adopt in our organization. It's very much a holistic approach, and it was very exciting to see Kwathi and SEDA comment on some of these things that we refer to and we adopt in our program as well. And to see that multi-organizations are using various aspects of this is really, really quite encouraging and exciting. So the first thing, you obviously need access to some sustainable business model that works. We are very fortunate as an organization to have the likes of TFG. I'm referencing them because of the fact that Sean has been on this call, who donate their excess product to us, and we use that as the model, as the resource for our beneficiaries to start their business. You also need access to capital. I would say 90% of our women, if not given that initial little access to capital, wouldn't be able to get out of the starting block. So what we do is that We give access to, I think it's currently 750 Rand at the start of the journey, and that money, it's not given, it is money that they have to pay back over a 7-month period. Once more, that feeds into the neurological brain pattern of, I need to pay this back because I believe I can pay it back and I'm successful enough to be able to pay it back. And that money they then use to go and buy stock in our warehouses, which they then use to start their self-employment journey. The women start their businesses within 6 weeks of being a part of the program, and that also feeds into what Sean was saying. And I think a question or two were raised about we believe in doing rather than just reading. We are very much an organization that believes it is by doing business that you learn business. But you need training and you need support. So we have a 2-year program. Our first year is very introduction to various basic business skills. Really, initially, it's how to use percentages. How do I do percentages on a calculator? We have a relatively simple bookkeeping module, money in, money out. It's quite basic because I think for many of us, we all have an aversion to holding up that financial mirror and looking at what is the reality of my finances. I think if I had to ask everyone in this webinar to say how often do you do your own personal monthly budget, I think it would be interesting to see the response. And that is not because we don't want to, it's just because what we have learned, that is human behavior. So we have to adjust that behavior to a point where people are comfortable on a regular basis looking at both their business and their personal finances, because without that, you don't have a true reflection of what your business is actually doing. Mentorship is a word that has been spoken about. And just an aside there, I do want to say that as having run my own business together with my husband for 10 years, it's a lonely journey, and we did find ourselves a mentor, and he played an incredibly pivotal role in supporting us as entrepreneurs. We do mentor as an organization in the Clothing Bank. Every woman has access to what we call an internal and an external mentor, and we do that very deliberately. Our internal mentor is someone who has graduated from the program. They've walked the walk. They know what it's like to sell in the environments and to market in the environments that our beneficiaries do. And then they also have an external mentor who is someone who has probably run their own business themselves and has a slightly higher level of business experience. And then I've already referenced the practical work experience. Our women learn by doing. We say the obvious, you can't learn soccer in a classroom. Yes, you can tweak your skills, but you learn soccer by playing soccer. And then we spend a long time on the deep personal growth. I've already referenced the fact of the trauma that many of our beneficiaries join us, what they are experiencing when they become a part of our TCB family. And we do believe that teaching business skills, teaching finance skills in the absence of hearing the story, the individual story, hearing the pain of the individual and addressing that pain and beginning a journey of healing is sometimes counterproductive. If I have such a deep level of trauma, my learning of finances, my learning of marketing, etc., is going to be somewhat limited because it is going to be continually blocked by the pain that I'm experiencing as an individual. And therefore we spend a lot of energy, a lot of our resources and a lot of our conversations with our beneficiaries, dealing with the trauma, dealing with the pain, and just dealing with personal growth. And that is also where our coaches play a really pivotal role. How do I journey to become better as an individual, as a mother? We work with women. How do I become a better parent? Because that is how you change the poverty loop, by being a better parent. How do I view education for my children, etc., etc. So those are the various aspects of what our program brings to the beneficiaries in the journey. It's a long program, it's a 2-year program, and we are very, very fortunate to be able to have a 2-year program. Many organizations we know are not that privileged to have that level of time. But change doesn't happen quickly, whether it be personal or financial. And once more referencing that self-employment continuum, it's a hard journey. And we do feel that 24 months is an appropriate length of time to implement real change. Thanks, Ilmen. So that is my last slide, and it just really summarizes who we are as an organization. Our vision is to inspire, skill, and support unemployed South Africans to eradicate poverty in their lives. Not just to remove poverty for the 24 months that they are with us, but to eradicate it. Our mission is we are empowering unemployed South Africans to become financially and socially independent by supporting and nurturing them to start sustainable businesses. Thanks, Ilmen. That is the end of my presentation, the formal side of things, and I'm more than happy to take questions from those in the discussion.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was a really insightful and beautiful presentation, and it is so heartwarming to see that there are organizations and people that really care about uplifting people, not just on a business side or an economic side, but recognizing that the story is important, you know, because it's often our stories that keep us from having that I can moments. And yeah, so thank you very much for that. Is there anybody else that wants to raise a question?
Thanks, Almin. I think in the chat, Amelia just asked in the Eastern Cape, she says she wants to applaud, first of all, the Clothing Bank for the work that you are doing. She has some success stories of friends who are well established now through the support that they've received from the Clothing Bank. So just a huge shout out to the work that's been done. And then a question is really, I think it's in the Eastern Cape. She's asking, is there any kind of footprint that the Clothing Bank has in supporting rural villages in areas that are in those kinds of areas? If that's something that Jane, if you could possibly respond to.
Sure. Thanks for that shout out. It is so heartwarming and encouraging that you personally know people who have benefited from our program, because as the bio said, that is the reason, that is why we get up in the morning, to hear about those success stories. So thank you for that. We do have a branch in East London. And what we do find is that quite a few of our beneficiaries in East London have their own personal footprint in the rural areas. So they will be East London based, but they will often journey into the rural areas around the East London area, whether it be into the Wild Coast area or down south. So we don't ourselves have any particular footprint, but it is supported, I suppose one could say, by our beneficiaries taking themselves their stock into the more rural areas. We do often get asked whether we could open up branches in various areas, and we are looking potentially at the moment, or at for one or two more. It always is driven by supply. Is how are we going to get the supply to that branch? So, for example, I think Kimberley's is under discussion at the moment, just its very early start discussion, but it always is about how do we get the supply from the retailers to our regions without the costs being so astronomical that it doesn't become financially viable. So that is something we always looking at, but we obviously all balancing at the end of the day, the cost effectiveness of having a branch in a particular area.
Thank you so much for that, Jane. There were no other further questions, comments on the chat. But just Jane, from my side, if there are any of the attendees that are wanting to get in contact with you, that are looking to try and enter into your program, your 2-year program, how could they go about doing that? Thanks so much.
Right. Thanks, Teresa. So we have a website, theclothingbank.org, www.theclothingbank.org, and it's a very comprehensive website. So I would suggest that they have a look at that. And on the website, they will also see what is involved in the application process. The initial stage of the application process, it is an online process, and then there are various kind of different aspects to the onboarding process. But have a look at our website and engage with us. We are on Instagram. We have quite an active social media presence. So it'd be lovely to chat further with some of the people on this call.
Thank you so much, and I've just posted your website address on the chat, and Almina's done the same. Thank you so much from my side, Jane. It's been very, very inspiring to sit and listen to you, and just your video at the start was just amazing, so thank you.
Fantastic, and thank you to everyone for this opportunity and for this time.